Now, we don't normally think of a diet as having a part to play in lameness, but it does affect both the horn quality and the growth. To tell me more about that is Mike Phillips from NWF Agriculture. Now, Mike, we've all seen that ripple effect in a cow's hoof, often due to the interruption in some dietary program it's on. But you're a big believer in acidosis causing a lot of these problems, aren't you?
You're quite right, Peter. I think acidosis is the major contributor to lameness in cows in the UK. It's typically seen when we would expect cows' rumens to be working at 5.9 to 6.1 pH, and we see a drop down to 5.5. Cows crave consistency, and changes are what causes this issue with acidosis.
All right, so we're in danger this particular winter with cereals being relatively cheap, that this could be a more frequent occurrence.
Absolutely. Typically what you'll see this year is people trying to chase the job with, as you quite rightly say, concentrates being as they are, particularly wheat being the price it is. People will try and chase the diet, particularly if they've got cows where they're struggling, they're in negative energy balance. They'll try and chase the diet with the ration. They get the forage to concentrate ratio completely wrong, and then you start to see the issue with acidosis.
All right, so we get this acidosis by one means or another, but how does that actually cause the lameness?
Well, what you find with the situation when you get acidosis in the room, and obviously the room pH is at 5.5, you've got a lot of acid production, and that only helps to exacerbate the problem with toxins that are produced from bacteria in the room. They're all under stress and they're producing toxins. This sees them then flowing into the blood capillaries in the corium above the hoof, and then you start to get this banding that you see appear and very soft hooves.
All right, so if acidosis is the cause and lameness is the result, what can we do about it?
Well, basically, you've got to ensure that the cow has a diet that's correct. Now, you can do that by making sure that the fibre levels are correct. It's got to be a balanced diet. Obviously, we talked earlier on about excessive starch and sugars. You've got to make sure they're in balance and correct. You've got to ensure that there's a correct level of fibre in the diet, so the NDF is correct. You've got to make sure that the diet that you actually feed the cow is the right one you feed. Typically, you'll see 4 diets going to a cow. You see the one that's actually created by the dietitian on his computer on farm. You'll see the one that actually gets put into the mixer wagon, the one that comes out of the mixer wagon, and the one that the most important one, the one that the cow actually eats.
So the cow is actually selecting the tastier bits, if you like, the starchy bits, the concentrate bits, when she's first fed the complete diet, and at the end of the 24-hour period, it's quite a lot of fibre in it.
Absolutely, this is the crux of the problem. You'll start to see cows coming in, driven by insulin in the body. They're craving the concentrate element of the diet. They come in, it's only like you or me. You come in, you want a Mars bar or you want a treat. You've got lettuce and a Mars bar there, you're going to go for the Mars bar every time. And this is what cows become very, very good at and increasingly good at. So what they do is they take the starch, it drops the room pH, and then you start to see this issue with toxins being produced and hence lameness.
But you talk about fibre as a possible solution. Now, 2 things come to mind there. One is if we feed more fibre, more NDF, then often that has an adverse effect on milk yields, drives them down.
Absolutely.
And secondly, I noted carefully in your talk earlier on, you not only refer to NDF, but you refer to PENDF, which is physically effective NDF, which presumably takes account of the lignin also in the material, does it?
Absolutely. What we're looking at with the physically effective NDF is we're looking at it's a link up really between the chemical equation and the physical equation. So what we actually see when we're doing a diet on the computer and what we actually see through our Penn State sieves. And what we're looking at there is the amount of fibre so we see sitting on the top 2 sieves. Basically what we need to do is try and maximise that and try and get to, optimise that figure. What we try and do is aim to get a figure between 13 and 19% of the fibre on the top 2 sieves basically. That will then create a situation where you've got cows cutting, they're producing saliva.
Now, one of the things I see you advocating is actually shorter chop like cows getting that to stop this pre-selection of the fibre in the ration. Does that work?
According to our figures, not now. I mean, there's only 15% of diets that we actually sieve.
But with shortening the chop,
that we found were correctly mixed. So what you generally find
the chop length,
you've got an issue
as
far as mixing's concerned and sorting. So it's actually what comes out of the mixer wagon and what actually the cow actually eats. So no, I would say not. 75%
thanks very much.
of the farm we go on
If
generally have a
acidosis
mixing
is the
problem.
problem, One of the
Okay,
things you
thanks very much.
recommend to stop this selection out of the diet is to shorten the chop length.
Oh, those two questions are all right.
To some extent, I think that's correct. Obviously, we grow a forage
Okay,
to do a
how
job,
can
and
we
that
go
job
about reducing acidosis?
in most terms is to provide the nutrients that we require to produce milk. That isn't necessarily what we grow. We grow grass for
Right,
that.
but if you
we
increase
don't
the level
grow
of
grass to be
fibre,
the physical element of the
don't
diet and
milk
create
yields drop?
the scratch factor, if you like. It's that you would use a product more like straw to do that job. So what I'm saying is divide
Now,
your
just let's come
thoughts
back to
out.
that
Grow a crop
fibre bit.
that's either high in
Talk about
starch or high in
MDF,
sugar or
and
high
in
in
particular, I
protein to
noticed
do
you
a job
talked
as far as
about
that's concerned.
PE
And look
MDF,
towards adding straw
which is
to the
physically
diet to
effective
create that physically effective
fibre.
NDF
Now, just
and
tell me a
hence
bit
create
about
the
that.
rumen mat and the saliva production to stop acidosis.
All right. Thanks very much for that, Mike.